The first lie Cynthia ever told was small, almost harmless. She stood among her friends in the bright university courtyard, laughing as they admired her shoes, her phone, her style. "My mother is a top politician," she said with a smile so smooth no one questioned it. That day, something changed. The lie did not stay small. It grew, stretched, and wrapped itself around her life until even she could not tell where truth ended. Back in a quiet village far away, her mother, Grace, wiped sweat from her face as she packed goods to sell. Every coin she earned had one purpose: to keep her daughter in school. Grace never ate enough, never rested enough, never complained. She believed in Cynthia with all her heart. While her daughter built castles of lies in the city, Grace built her future with sacrifice. Cynthia learned quickly. She watched rich girls, copied their accents, their confidence, their careless laughter. She borrowed clothes, borrowed money, borrowed lifestyles, and soon, she was living a life that was not hers. Her friends admired her. They believed her. She became someone important in their eyes, and she loved it. Grace, on the other hand, counted every naira. Some days, she walked long distances just to save transport fare. When Cynthia called, it was always short. "Send money," she would say. Never "How are you?" Never "Are you okay?" Grace always answered with kindness, even when her heart felt heavy. "Please, don't ever come to my school without telling me," Cynthia said one afternoon over the phone. Her tone was sharp, almost cold. Grace paused, confused. "But my daughter," Cynthia cut her off. "Just don't. It's important." Grace didn't understand, but she agreed. A mother's heart does not argue. It obeys, it protects, it hopes. Even when something feels wrong, it stays quiet for love. Cynthia hung up and returned to her friends, laughing like nothing had happened. Years passed, and Cynthia never returned home. Each holiday came and went, but she always had an excuse. "I'm busy. I have projects. I'm traveling." The truth was simple: she was ashamed. Ashamed of where she came from. Ashamed of the woman who gave her everything. Grace kept waiting. Every passing year deepened the silence between them. She would sit outside her small house, watching the road, hoping one day she would see her daughter walking toward her. But the road remained empty. When Cynthia's final year came, Grace made a decision. She would attend her daughter's graduation, no matter what. She sold her last valuable goods. She borrowed money she was not sure she could repay. She bought a simple dress and carefully packed her bag. "This is a big day," she whispered to herself. "I must be there." Her face carried both joy and fear. She did not know what waited for her in the city, but her love was stronger than her doubts. The city was loud, busy, and overwhelming. Grace stepped out of the bus, holding her small bag tightly. Everything felt strange, but she asked for directions until she finally reached the university gate. Her heart beat fast with excitement. She pulled out her phone and called Cynthia. "My daughter, I am at the gate," she said with a smile. For a brief second, there was silence. Then, click. The call ended. Grace tried again. This time, the phone was off. Confusion filled her eyes, but she waited. After waiting for a long time, Grace gathered courage and walked into the school. She asked students for directions until she found the graduation hall. The place was filled with joy, laughter, music, cameras flashing everywhere. Grace's face lit up when she saw Cynthia. Her daughter looked beautiful, shining, important. Pride filled her heart. She forgot the strange phone call and rushed forward, ready to embrace her child. Cynthia stood with her friends, posing for pictures, smiling brightly. Everything was perfect, until Grace stepped closer. "Cynthia," she called softly, stretching her arms for a hug. Before she could touch her, Cynthia stepped back sharply. Her smile disappeared. "Who is your daughter?" she said loudly. The air froze. The laughter stopped. Grace blinked, confused. "It's me, your mother," she replied. "I don't know you," Cynthia said firmly, her voice steady. Her friends turned, watching closely. One of them frowned. "Cynthia, who is she? You said your parents live abroad." Cynthia forced a small laugh. "I've never seen this woman before," she said. "I don't know what she's talking about." The words cut deeper than any knife. Grace's hands trembled as she tried to speak again. "I am your mother," Grace said, her voice shaking. "I have been calling you, but your phone is not going through." Tears filled her eyes as she looked at the girl she raised. Her friends exchanged glances. The tension grew heavy. But Cynthia stood still, silent, refusing to look at her. In that moment, Grace understood everything: the lies, the distance, the shame. Grace slowly dropped to her knees. Her body could no longer carry the weight of the pain. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, her voice breaking. "I worked hard to pay your fees," she cried. "So this is why you never wanted me to come here, because I'm poor." Her words echoed through the silent crowd. Grace lifted her head, her eyes filled with pain and strength. "You will look for me," she said quietly. "And when you do, you may not find me." Without waiting for a reply, she stood up, turned around, and walked away. Her steps were slow but firm. No one stopped her. No one spoke. The moment was too heavy for words. Cynthia stood frozen. Her friends looked at her differently now. The admiration in their eyes had faded, replaced by doubt and confusion. "Cynthia, was she telling the truth?" one of them asked softly. Cynthia said nothing. For the first time, her perfect world began to crack. The celebration continued, but something had changed. The laughter no longer felt real. The pictures no longer felt meaningful. Cynthia smiled, but her heart was restless. In the middle of the noise, her mother's words echoed in her mind. "You will look for me," she shook her head, trying to ignore it. But deep down, something was already breaking. As the day came to an end, Cynthia stood alone for a moment, watching others celebrate with their families. Parents hugged their children, took pictures, shared joy. She looked around, but no one came for her. Not her rich parents. Not anyone. Just silence. For the first time, the life she built felt empty. Far away, Grace walked slowly down the road, her tears drying in the wind. Her heart was shattered, but her spirit remained strong. She did not look back. Back in the city, Cynthia returned to her friends, pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, a storm had started, and it was only the beginning. After graduation, the noise of celebration faded quickly, and reality stepped in without warning. Cynthia stayed back in the city, holding tightly to the life she had built with lies. She dressed well, spoke with confidence, and carried her file of certificates from one company to another. Each office looked promising from the outside, but inside, it was always the same answer: "We will get back to you." Every morning, she woke up early and checked her email with hope. Every afternoon, she refreshed it again. Every night, she stared at the same empty inbox. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. 5 months passed, and nothing came. The city that once made her feel important now made her feel invisible. Money began to run out. The little savings she had carefully managed started disappearing. The friends who once laughed with her were now busy with their own lives. Calls reduced. Messages stopped. Invitations ended. Cynthia began to feel the weight of silence. The expensive lifestyle she once displayed became impossible to maintain. She stayed indoors more often, avoiding people who might ask questions. The truth she once ran from was slowly catching up with her. Her room, once filled with excitement and pride, now felt too quiet. The walls seemed to close in on her. She would sit on her bed, staring into space, replaying moments she tried so hard to forget. Each rejection letter felt heavier than the last. "We regret to inform you," became words she feared. Her confidence began to fade. Even her voice lost its strength. Cynthia was no longer the girl who lived like a millionaire's daughter, she was now just another struggling graduate. Food became something she had to think about. She started skipping meals to save money. Sometimes she drank water just to silence the hunger. The life she once pretended to live had completely disappeared. One afternoon, as she walked back from another failed interview, she saw a mother holding her child tightly, smiling with pride. Cynthia paused. Something inside her shifted. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to remember. That night, Cynthia lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Her mind was loud, filled with thoughts she could no longer ignore. She saw her mother's face clearly, the pain, the tears, the moment she was denied in public. Cynthia turned to her side and covered her face. Tears began to fall. Not small tears, but deep, heavy ones that came from regret. She cried until her chest hurt. By morning, Cynthia had made a decision. She could not continue like this. The city had taken everything from her, but her mother had given her everything. With shaking hands, she brought out her suitcase. She packed slowly, carefully folding each item. Tears dropped onto her clothes as she walked. She did not know what awaited her, but she knew one thing: she had to go home. The journey felt longer than it should. Every mile carried memories she had tried to forget. Her heart beat faster as she got closer to the village. She rehearsed what she would say, but the words never felt enough. "How do you apologize for breaking a heart that only ever loved you?" She held her bag tightly, her eyes filled with fear and hope. When Cynthia finally arrived, she stood at the entrance of her mother's compound. The place looked the same, simple, quiet, familiar. Then she saw her. Grace stood outside, just as she had many times before, as if she had been waiting all along. Cynthia's legs felt weak. She could not look into her mother's eyes. Without a word, Cynthia dropped her suitcase and fell to her knees. Tears rushed down her face as she bowed her head. "Mother, please forgive me," she cried. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." Her voice broke as she spoke. She could not lift her head. Shame held her down. Grace looked at her daughter silently. The image of the school gate flashed in her mind, the crowd, the humiliation, the denial. Her heart tightened. The wound was still fresh. She remembered every word Cynthia had said, every look from the crowd. For a moment, she said nothing. Later that evening, they sat together in silence. The air was heavy, filled with unspoken emotions. Grace finally spoke. "Why did you do it?" she asked calmly. "Why did you deny me like that?" Her voice was not loud, but it carried deep pain. Cynthia wiped her tears and struggled to speak. "I was afraid," she said quietly. Grace frowned. "Afraid of what?" she asked. Cynthia looked down. "The rich students, they bully those from poor homes. They laugh at them. They make them feel small. I didn't want that to happen to me. I wanted to belong," Cynthia continued. "I wanted to be respected. So I lied. And the lie became my life. I thought I could protect myself, but I ended up hurting you." Her voice trembled. "I lost everything, Mother. And I deserved it." Tears filled her eyes again. Grace watched her quietly. The anger in her heart slowly softened. She saw not the proud girl from the city, but the same child she once carried on her back. A mother's love does not end because of pain, Grace said gently. It hurts, but it forgives. Cynthia looked up, surprised. Grace reached out and lifted Cynthia to her feet. I forgive you, she said simply. Cynthia broke down again, this time not from pain, but from relief. She hugged her mother tightly, holding on as if she would never let go again. Days passed, and peace returned to the house. Cynthia stayed with her mother, helping her, learning again what it meant to live with honesty. Her heart became lighter. The burden she carried for years slowly disappeared. For the first time, she felt free, not because of wealth, but because of truth. When Cynthia returned to the city, everything felt different. She no longer pretended. She no longer chased validation. She applied for jobs again, this time with patience and sincerity. And then, one morning, the email came. Congratulations, she read it twice, her hands shaking. Cynthia got the job. A good one. A stable one. She worked hard, determined never to lose herself again. With her first earnings, she brought her mother to the city. This time, she did not hide her. She introduced her proudly. This is my mother, she would say, her voice full of respect. Their home in the city was simple but filled with peace. Laughter returned. Love grew stronger. Cynthia learned a lesson she would never forget: no matter how far you go, you cannot run from your roots. And no matter how deep the wound, a mother's love can still heal.